Hello, I'm Ethan Moss-Wills,
And today I'm going to be talking about American football in the UK.
During this documentary, I hope to show you three perspectives from within the game. This will include an interview with Ben Herod, a coach here at SGS Pride Academy with years of experience in the game, an interview with Pete Ackerley, the CEO of the British American Football Organisation, otherwise known as the BAFA, and a demonstration and interview from one of SGS's top players, Ethan Claridge.
While the UK has a rich history of sports such as football, cricket and rugby, other sports don't get a great deal of coverage. This is why I'm going to be talking about American football. American football is much overlooked in the mainstream media in this country, but that's not due to lack of interest. Admittedly, most of this interest is in the NFL, where the best players play and drafts and trades are used to keep the league new and exciting. However, in this video we're going to be looking into the British game and how it can grow into a bigger sport like it has across the Atlantic. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the rules of American football, I'm going to play a short clip.
American football is a game played on a 100-yard field by two teams of 11 players. In the NFL, squads of 53 players make up each side's offensive, defensive, and special teams units that take turns on the field. The aim of the game is move the ball into the opponent's end zone to score a touchdown and extra point. This is achieved by moving the ball down the field in a series of plays, or downs. They can do this either by passing the ball through the air from quarterback to receiver, or by a running back rushing the ball along the ground. The offense must move the ball at least 10 yards downfield every 4 plays in order to keep possession of the ball and earn another 4 downs to drive towards the opponent's end zone. If the defense prevent them making these 10 yards, the team with the ball must either punt possession of the ball to the opposition, or, if close enough, attempt to kick a field goal between the upright posts. After 4 15-minute quarters of play, the team with the most points wins the game.
After that very helpful explanation, I think it's important that we focus on American football a little bit closer to home.
American football is not without its support in Europe, with the German Football League gaining great popularity and thousands of spectators turning out to watch it every single week. Coupled that with the European Championships that take place every few years in Europe. To find out more about popularity of American football in the UK, I came to my college SGS, the home of Bristol Pride Academy. The academy has produced over 30 players, helping them to earn contracts to professional leagues since its inception in 2008. I spoke to Ben Herod to find out more about the academy and how it's worked.
Hello. Alright, hi Ben. How's it going?
So Ben, how long have you been coaching American football?
Blimey. I actually started when I was about 19, maybe 18 coaching. I wouldn't, probably looking back, wouldn't class it as coaching now. It was basically our junior program at the time had one coach, and being a more experienced player, he asked people to step forward and help him coach, and I did that. And I guess that's 20, 24, 25 years ago now.
Wow, that's a long time in the game.
Yeah. And before that, I mean, I was probably playing for 6, 7 years, something along those lines. So I've been involved a long time. Sort of stumbled upon the job here, really. I was, as daft as it sounds, I was sneaking our kids in to use the facility because we were using the Barra ground. One winter, we were, I think we'd cancelled 5 or 6 practices in a row and found out that one of our kids was attending Filton College. And he said, oh, they've got this amazing indoor facility. And, you know, nobody watches the side doors because we often sneak in to play football. So I was a lot younger than I am now and thought, well, let's just sneak in and use it for American football. I think I did that for 2 weeks. Then the third week, I felt a little bit bad about the situation and spoke to the guy at the front desk. And he said, look, he goes, because of what you're doing with local kids, he goes, just go and use it. And I happened to be in there training the kids when the principal, Kevin Hamlin, was walking around and saw how we were coaching, what we were doing, and offered me a job. And since then, essentially started the team here at the college, and 15 years later, somehow I still have a job. So, yeah.
So, do you think it's changed a lot since then? So, young people getting into American football now, how much do you think that's changed?
I think young people in general have changed a lot in the last 15 or 20 years. Completely changed. The stuff we used to do hasn't just changed because of health and safety. It's changed because of the mentality of the kids. You know, when I first got into coaching, we could line kids up opposite each other and do contact all day long, and they wouldn't get sick of it or get hurt. And I don't believe they were physically tougher than the kids now because they didn't have access to gyms. The kids we've got now look completely different. They look like they're better football players, and they certainly pass the eye test. But as far as physicality, if we lined our kids up now and did contact for half an hour, I think half the team would be sat out then for 2 weeks.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was obviously American football in the UK is a minority sport, of course.
Yeah.
What do you think the attitude is towards, just by the general public, what do you think their attitude is towards American football?
I think the general public like the NFL, but that's very different to what we do here in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, that would be like comparing the Manchester United experience to, Manor Road Rovers or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
You know, it's completely different. We're very much Sunday league. I think we're lucky in that some of our kids have gone on and progressed to, we've had 2 kids go on to the NFL. We've had a load of kids go to play NCAA football, so that we can, I guess, in essence, professionalize what we're doing off the back of their success. We can say, we have these standards and we want you to buy into these standards because look, there's a proven track record of it gets you where you want to get to. We don't play in stadiums. We play in parks and open fields. And again, general public want the stadium experience, and they want tailgating, and they don't want to be the only person there watching the game. So yeah, I'd be surprised if general public even knew that American football was played in Europe, let alone anything outside of the NFL Wembley games.
So you mentioned a couple of your players who've moved on to the NFL. Is that the aim and the prospect for a lot of your players?
I think it's a dream. I think that dream's shattered pretty quickly once they understand where they need to be physically. It's the top 1% that'll ever get to go and play in the US, and probably a smaller percentage of that'll actually earn a football scholarship. And then it's the top 1% of those guys that ever make it into the NFL. The 2 guys that we've had play NFL football were physical freaks. You need to be 6'3", 6'4" as a minimum to sort of, get on the ride. And then on top of that is speed. Coaches that I speak to in the States when I'm trying to get our kids recruited, if they're not running 4.5, 4.6, the conversation ends. They don't even bother watching the highlight film. It's not about whether our kids can play the sport, because they can. It's about whether physically they think that our kids can match up to those in the US, which most can.
Right. Cheers, Ben. That was really helpful.
After that very helpful interview with Ben, I thought it was important to do a bit of research into the history of American football in the UK.
Most of you will have heard of the NFL games that take place in the UK twice a year at Wembley Stadium and Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, with thousands pouring in to watch the best battle it out on foreign turf. However, this is not the first we've seen of the sport in the UK. American football first came to the UK 111 years ago with the US Navy in 1910. The first game was played between the USS Idaho and the USS Vermont. Sponsored by the Daily Mirror with a crowd of over 10,000 at Crystal Palace. As demand for American football increased in the UK, the first NFL game was brought to Wembley in 1983. However, it was received with wide criticism, with the Sunday Express describing it as a big ball, despite attracting around 32,000 spectators. However, this did not kill interest within the sport, as around 20 domestic teams began to emerge around the UK. By 1984, the American Football League formed, with 20 22 teams. The league culminated in the British version of the Super Bowl, the Summer Bowl, and later named the Bud Bowl and Coke Bowl by sponsors that changed it, and finally ended up as the Brit Bowl, which remains its name to this day. The women's game also got a Kickstarter, as in 1986, the first game in the UK played by two teams made up completely of women played. In November, the East Coast Sharkettes defeated the Eastbourne Crusaders 30-12 in a game at Bognor Regis. The UK formed the national team in 1987, following the success of the AFL UK, winning European Championships in 1989 and 1991, beating Finland in both finals. Since then, they have not achieved the same level of success.
After learning about the history of American football in the UK, I decided to find out about the plans for the future development of the game. So I went and spoke to Pete Ackerley, the CEO of the British American Football Association, otherwise known as the BAFA.
Right. Hi, Pete. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Ethan. An end of another busy week as we prepare for our new 2021 season after a significant amount of time of not playing. It feels starting to get back to normal, so that's no bad thing.
No, of course. So I just thought I'd ask you, how did you get involved in American football in the UK, and what's your personal motivation for growing the sport?
Well, I come from that group of people who first fell in love with American football back in the mid '80s on Channel 4, and yeah. I was that group of massive sportsman myself and sports fan, and just loved watching the games on Channel 4, and then just grew and grew and grew that love of the game. My career, fortuitously in the sort of mid '90s, fell into working in Lancashire cricket as a development officer, developing the game, and grew that through a few years into ending up at Lords as head of development of the game of cricket at the England and Wales Cricket Board. And then in 2009 went to a similar role working at the Football Association at Wembley and St George's Park as heading up their development and participation programs. Way back in 2017, I sort of semi-retired, and I thought I was going to put my feet up, and then the opportunity came. It's one of those phone calls when someone said, "Have you seen that they want a chief exec at British American Football?" And if I'm being brutally honest, I knew there was football in Britain. I absolutely knew that, but I didn't know there was an organisation or a governing body that was structured. So I started to look at it and realised that it's just of all the opportunities I was being presented with at that time, this just by far outweighed, and this was just one of those great opportunities. There I was in October 2019, sort of walking through the doors and starting to get involved in starting if you like, a view of what could we do with this sport in this country. And 5 months later, I shut it all down, and we haven't played since. So yeah, that was not what I'd planned. But it's enabled us to set a 10-year vision, and that's what I was always really keen to do for British American Football, to establish it as the organisation, as British American Football Association, as a high-performing national governing body of sport, like any other governing body that I've worked with and for, and we've set out now on a 10-year journey, essentially, to professionalise the game and professionalise our game, both on and off the field. I don't mean that as in we're now going to have a professional game structure and everyone's going to get paid. I mean, we're just going to professionalise the whole approach to our game. And more importantly, to inspire more people to play a part in the game. So the sport will only thrive with people wanting to play, more people wanting to play, and probably above all, people helping it to be played, whether they be coaches, officials, volunteers who run the sport. So what we're now looking at is now looking to create a really accessible, safe, inclusive, and enjoyable sport for all. And I think that's really important. Yeah. And you talk about my ambitions for growth. That I want more. I want to get the gender balance more. So I want more women and girls playing the game. I want us to get more people starting to play the game. So that would be in schools, colleges, and universities. I think is probably one of our really big growth potential areas. And then really getting a structure for our game, for our national league, whether that be flag football or whether that be contact football. And I think that's really important. I see the big growth area for football in flag. Really see that's a massive growth area.
Would you mind just explaining
what the difference is between flag football and contact football, just for people watching?
Yeah, but very simply, flag football is the non-contact, small-sided. So essentially, it's like touch or tag rugby. Basically, the guys wear a belt with tags which are detachable, and that's the tackle by removing the flag. So it's a much shorter game. It's much smaller pitch. It's 5 or 7 aside. But the flag football is really a smaller-sided version of non-contact, and much more simple to establish, much more straightforward to set up initially.
The next thing I was going to ask you, actually, you mentioned before how obviously you knew about American football in the UK, but it wasn't something at the forefront of your mind. Do you think that's something that represents the whole of Britain? What do you think the general attitude is towards American football within the UK?
I've talked about it being the best kept secret in British sport. Just people just didn't realise. Yeah. And we developed some great athletes. We developed some great players. Lots of our talent. Transitions. It goes to Europe. It goes to the CFL. Recently, we have 3 drafted into the CFL. 2 guys in the NFL international player pathway.
So I was just wondering if you could. You've obviously mentioned the 10-year plan, and you've mentioned what you'll do around it to get people involved. So with people who are maybe watching this and thinking, I'm not a player, but how can I get involved at home? How can I maybe get to games or help support the league?
Yeah, I think there's being currently a truly amateur sport, every one of our clubs, every one of our teams is reliant upon volunteers to support and run those clubs. Great opportunity to get involved because we're going to now work closely with the NFL to build for the flag football to be part of the 2028 games in LA. So if that becomes a reality, there's a great opportunity for people now to transition to flag football and potentially become an Olympian. I actually think the opportunities within the women's game are really strong, and with the massive potential for growth and for success on the field as well. Yeah. But I think above all, it's a great community to become involved with. So whether you are a player, or you could get involved in coaching or officiating, or just helping run our clubs, because that's going to be one of the keys to the success of British American football. Will be strong clubs, well run, with people bringing some really strong business acumen to those clubs. So
yeah, it'd be great.
There is so many opportunities. There's one thing I think to leave everybody with is we've got a set of beliefs in British American football now, which are almost like our value set, but it's a beliefs which is we're a sport that wants to be progressive, so we're always moving forward. We want to be responsive, so we respond to what we hear and what people say. We're absolutely determined to be fully inclusive. But I suppose more importantly, we want to be driven by doing the right things and doing things right.
Cheers, Pete. That was really helpful. I'm just going to stop the recording now. After learning more about the development of the game from Pete, I decided to get one final perspective of British American football from a player. This player was Ethan Claridge, a running back for the SGS Pride Academy.
How did you get involved in American football?
So, probably when I was about 14 or 15, I went on YouTube and I saw a Vine compilation of American football. I thought that looked cool, but I was a bit too young to start, and then I had to wait about a year. And I just Googled in my local areas, what teams there were, joined one, and I've been playing since then.
Okay. So, what position do you play?
So I play running back mainly, and I also play a bit of linebacker as well.
Okay, so what responsibilities does a running back have for the team? What do you do on the pitch?
So in general, I'd say a running back would, usually a quarterback would throw the ball, yeah. But sometimes you can hand it off, you can give it to a running back. So a running back will take the ball and run with it, trying to score a touchdown.
Cool, thanks. Who has been your biggest mentor and supporter since you've taken up American football?
Well, that's a good question. I'd probably say it'd be my mum, actually. Yeah. She's driven me to every game that I've ever played. She's always been there. She's never missed a game. So it's been quite good to have her around, like being there for me. And coach-wise, I've quite a lot of coaches. So obviously Coach Ben here, Coach Dan from the year before, Coach Fitz. So those guys have really like shaped how I am as a football player, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I saw you had quite a big team when I was down here the other day. It seemed like a very organised training session. So, what are your aspirations for American football? So, where do you go next? Is there plans to maybe try for America or elsewhere in Europe?
So, my main goal when coming down here was to get out to America and go to a college. And that's still sort of my main goal, but it's a bit... COVID has sort of messed that up, as in, you can't really get out to America if you don't have game film, so you need film of you playing, and we don't really have that because we only played a couple of games last year and none this year. So there is still a goal for that, and I might stay a couple of extra years here to try and get that. Or I might go play for a university in the UK and then try and play professionally in, say, like Germany or France or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. What do you think the general public kind of opinion is on American football from the UK?
Okay, so I think the general public's opinion is changing. It was... American football in the UK has been going on since the 80s. Yeah. In quite a big way. And then it sort of dipped in the 2000s, and it's not as... You used to get paid in the 80s, you don't get paid now. So, in the 80s, I think it was quite positive. Then it came sort of a negative thing. People compare it to rugby. It's similar, but it's not. No. You know, it's a completely different sport, really. And now I think with the NFL's sort of growing investment in the UK, and they're really trying to push the European market, it's really changing how people like support it. You see a lot of people out wearing American football gear. Yeah. You wouldn't see that like 2-3 years ago, but there's a lot of now. You see caps everywhere, jerseys and stuff, and that's quite nice to see.
Yeah, hopefully it continues to grow. It's a very entertaining sport to watch. So my final question is, what's the biggest challenge you've faced as a player?
So I think my biggest challenge would be obviously moving away from home is a big one, but then also injuries. Yeah. So say right now I've got a twisted ankle, that puts me out for a week, and that's sort of annoying because you don't want to stand on the sidelines. I haven't had a concussion or anything, so I've been very lucky with that because that is a major problem for some people. I'd say just you get a bit of wear and tear as you go through the game, and it piles up sometimes and then it goes away, and then you go through dips and highs and lows and that sort of thing. So I'd say that's my biggest challenge.
Ethan and I then headed out onto the pitch so that he could show me a few moves. But before that, we had to kit up.
Fancy stuff. Go on then, yeah.
With route running, as a UK person would say, you would line up where the ball is, and then you would start to run, and the QB would try and throw you the ball. There's a lot of different combinations of routes that you can run. So I'll run through like 3 or 4, and then I'll start throwing the ball and figure that out.
Right, yeah, sounds good. Right.
So first of all, I take one glove off. So whichever, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Yeah, right-handed.
Okay, so take your right hand glove off. So I'm not a QB, but I do know how to throw a ball because I played for a year. So first of all, laces here. Yep. It's very important that you get one of your fingers on the laces because that's how you spin the ball. So you hold it like that. Yep. Try and spread your hand out. Have a tiny little gap in between. Yep. Between the ball and your hand. You want to take it from here, so you're side on, facing towards the pitch. Ball up, sideways, come through. And if you've ever shot a basketball, you flick your wrist like this. On American football, you flick it, but you flick it sideways. So you would go like this, and you'd flick. So you follow through, you open your hips, follow through like that. Okay? You'll flick it over, down. Alright, okay. You want it to spiral. Alright. We'll see how this goes. Okay, it's a good start. So, you want to try and put a bit more force into it now. So, I'll throw it this way so the camera can see a bit, you can see. So you really want to start from here, throw, put a bit more into it, if you know what I mean. So you really...
So get more like height.
Sending it through, yeah. So you want to put a little bit of height underneath it, release it a bit higher. There you go. Yeah. But you're starting to get the general motion down there. The flicking the wrist is the hardest thing. Yeah. So even if you've been playing for quite a long time, even the QBs here will sometimes get it wrong and they'll be a bit wobbly with it. But basically, if you spin the ball as fast as you can, it's going to fly better through the air. Yeah. There's less like drag on it. So the faster you spin it, the further it goes. So if you put a lot of spin on, it's going to go quicker. If you spin it, a bit better.
After I'd shown off some of my world-class throwing skills, me and Ethan decided to have a go at running some routes.
The post route is about 10 yards, so 10, so that's 5 and then another one. You want to run in a straight line until you get to the 10, and then you want to cut in 45 degrees towards the post. That's why it's called post. With catching, it's very important how you have your hands.
Okay.
So, anything that is above here on you, you want to have your hands in a diamond.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
And therefore you want to have the ball come through that diamond like that.
Okay.
So you want to have the ball through and you watch the point. Anything below your waist, you want to have your fingertips together. So hold it real quick. You want to have your fingertips together like this.
Okay.
Catch it down low. Anything over the shoulder, fingertips together again. And just let it come into your basket.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Pass it back.
So, over the shoulder.
Over the shoulder. So if you're running in a straight line, it's coming over like this. Just like that. Yeah. Fingertips together, low, fingertips together. Anything high, try and get your, like a diamond, yeah? Cool, got it. So, let's try again. Ready, go. There you go. Sign me up. Ready, go. That was my fault.
I'm shorter than most of them.
So go, basically, what you're trying to do is there's someone usually covering you called a defensive back or a DB.
Yeah.
And they're going to be covering you and they're going to be backwards because they need to look at here and look at you at the same time. So they're going to be backpedaling like this. If you're running in a straight line as fast as you can run way faster than they can going backwards.
Yeah.
And this time, instead of the ball being out in front of you like this, it's going to come over your shoulder.
Alright.
So it'll be out in front.
Okay, so I've got, yeah, alright.
Yeah, so you're basically just running as fast as possible down. You're just going bam, bam. You want to look for it about here. Touchdown. Okay. Ready, go! Ooh, stop running. Try not to stop running. You've got all the way to the far back line. Ready, go! Way! Touchdown! So, got a touchdown there, we've got a touchdown there. Next one. Pretty easy one, but this has got a slant. Okay. Lots of people like to run this with boys. Say the defensive back is really up in your face. Yeah. They're going to try and get in your face. So you want to take one step and then 45 degrees across. 45 degrees. I'm going to throw the ball reasonably quickly at you.
Alright. So I'm just trying to basically lose the guy that's supposed to.
Yeah, so you just run as fast as you can that way. Ready, go! There you go. Okay, so that's slant. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we'll do a bit of defense. So, say a wide receiver is lined up here. The DB is either going to be at 2 yards off him, lined up like this. You're just going to backpedal until he gets alongside you. He's on your hip, and then you open up and you run with him.
Okay.
Then you're looking for the ball. The ball's coming. You try and get it. So you're basically playing wide receiver, but you don't know what he's running.
Okay. So just stay with the man.
Stay with the man, yes. So what we're going to do for this is a pretty simple drill. You're going to start lined up as a DB. You're going to backpedal. I'm going to have the ball. Once I pull it down, you run towards me. Okay. I'm going to throw it to you. You try and catch it. You're going to there's a thing called a football position. So a football position is how a running back would start. Feet shoulder width apart, slightly wider if you want slightly there. Bend your knees, hands like this. Yeah. Flat back. For a DB, it's the same thing. Slightly back, hands off your knees, flat back, just like that. Yeah. Okay. Right. So back you go. Come forward. There you go. Okay, so a little bit more with catching. So once you've caught the ball, say you've got it now, you want to tuck it away. You're Because if you're running like this, someone's going to come and try and punch it out. And if you punch it out, the ball goes on the ground, someone else can pick it up, then it's not your ball anymore. You catch it, you want to try and get your fingers over the top, a bit like an eagle's claw.
Yeah.
So over the point of the ball. And you want to have the ball on your forearm here, tuck it in to your elbow, have it across your chest, squeeze your arm.
Okay.
Very hard for someone to come punch that ball out now.
Yeah.
Trying to rip it out, nothing's going to happen there. So let's just do a little catch, throw catch. I'll keep on tucking it like this. You want the point of it, like that.
Oh,
underneath
okay.
your chin. Like that, okay. Tuck it in, across. There you go. Don't want your finger over the top. Because imagine if you had your finger over the top like this.
Yeah.
And someone's helmet came down on it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Boom, you're breaking your finger.
Yeah, okay.
My personal position is a running back. So running back, everything so far has been throwing the ball. The running back gets given the ball. So a QB would usually stand here. The running back would be on either side of them. So either right behind or actually behind. It would be a run play would be called from the sideline. And the QB would get the ball, turn, and give it to the running back, okay? Because if you're running through with it like this, you've got a load of big guys.
Yeah.
330 pound, like 150 kilo guys, punching it, trying to tackle it. It's a bit safer to have it over. So that's pretty secure, if you know what I mean. There you go. Ready, go. Good. That's about all I think.
Yeah, that was really helpful. Cheers. Thanks. That was great.
I'm going to finish this documentary with a short piece about the impacts of COVID on British American football and how the sport can move on in the years to come.
My final question. So obviously in the last year we've had the coronavirus pandemic. How impactful has that been for you in the academy?
Oh, massively. The biggest impact it's had is probably on the mental health of the kids that we're coaching. Something I wasn't expecting, if I'm honest. I mean, you never, I think being a bloke and, you never really expect or are ready for other blokes to sort of break down and struggle with things mentally. You just think that everyone's kind of a dude and they're going to suck it up and get on with it. And people have really, really struggled with the pandemic.
After 30 years of working in sport, I don't have a playbook on my desk here to how to deal with a global pandemic. But it's enabled us to set a 10-year vision, and that's what I was always really keen to do for British American football.
Our kids have had to come to terms with the fact that their opportunity to go to the States has been taken from them by something completely out of their hands. That they've made all the financial commitment to move to Bristol to do the American football here, and we've had 2 years now with no games. We've had to adjust the way that we train, so when we are training, we're still not to the point where we can have everybody at practice and that we can have a normal practice. Our training sessions don't resemble what they used to at all. We had to start for a couple of months with just one coach and 6 players. And when you've got 95 guys on your squad, it takes a long time to get through everybody and give them a training session.
Yeah.
How do you think COVID's impacted what you do here and all your training sessions?
Yeah, so definitely it's completely changed how we train. So at the start of last year we were doing a lot of, we have a section called team, where we go offense versus defense.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to do that at all this year. We actually did our first session last Wednesday. It was our first team session of the year, and that's unprecedented. We're usually playing games. Like, we're way into our season right now. So we've just done a lot of non-kitted stuff. No helmets, no pads. Moved back into kitted now, and then slowly going into contact.
Thank you to everyone who participated in this documentary, and my cameramen, Owen and Baxter. I've learnt a lot during this process about the history and development of British American football in the UK. And I hope I've taught you something new as well. Leave any feedback you've got in the comments, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.